All right, here we go. All right. Hi, Ashley.
Hi.
So we just watched your video on your lesson. And so just kind of give me some things that you noticed and some things that you observed in your lesson that you did.
So I did an assignment where I took some inferencing. Oh, I gotta make sure.
Yeah.
I took some inferencing information from online, so some
Mhm.
passages with some guided questions
Mhm.
involved, where the kids had to go around the room. I cut them into strips, and they went around and they'd read the passages and then answer the questions.
Yeah.
So I noticed that they seemed fairly involved. They
Mhm.
liked the ability to move around and everything.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, they collaborated a little bit, which was fine.
Mm-hmm.
But and of course, there's always a little bit of side conversation.
Yeah.
But I wish that there had been a little more individualized, because they were helping each other
Mhm.
quite a bit. But it seemed to work really well.
Yeah, so from what I noticed, they were walking around the room and they were reading the passages, and there was a lot of discussion from what I saw. I think something I noticed about you that you did great is the kids seemed comfortable approaching you
Mhm.
when they were confused about something or had questions, which I think is great. And I saw that there was a text evidence component in what you were
Yes.
doing, which is something that in our courses that we are told that, you know, that's something that's a big push is citing text evidence and things like that. So tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so when they read the passage, they would have to answer the question, then they would have to back up their inference by
Mhm.
pulling from the passage. So they had to tell me, how do they know this is something they could infer?
Mm-hmm. Awesome. So tell me about which people who are watching the coaching video might not know, about the coaching or the STARS workbooks and the STARS reading strategies that we have to go through with our students.
So this is based off the 12 main reading strategies, so things like author's purpose and making predictions and everything. And we go through each of those, and then we can incorporate novels and stuff as well.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them are fairly easy for the kids,
Mhm.
like fact and opinion or compare and contrast. Those are perfectly fine. But ones like making inferences can really be a challenge for them.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm going to ask you some questions, and just kind of think about your lesson that I came and observed and that we recorded the video on, and just kind of tell me your honest feedback and opinion on these questions. So on a scale of 1 to 10, with 1 being the worst lesson you've ever taught and 10 being the best, how would you rank that lesson?
Probably a 6.
Okay. Why would you say 6?
Because I was happy with the movement and like you said, some of the conversation. There was a little bit of side conversation that was going on.
Mm-hmm.
Attention all staff, our awesome 7th grade teachers and staff for 7th grade have our munchies waiting on us on the 7th grade hallway.
Sorry.
It's in the fax room. Give me a minute.
Okay.
There you go. So you said a 6.
Yeah, so a 6. And like I said, there seemed to be some good movement and stuff, good conversation. There were some side conversation.
Right.
I just know that in some cases, I had a lot of kids that were doing stuff individually. I had a few that were, I feel like, collaborating a little too much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The awesome munchies are in the fax room. Head down to the fax room for the 7th grade munchies.
There you go. So, what pleased you about the lesson? What do you think went well?
They did seem involved because they were able to move and they were able to, you know, be in the same area as their friends and stuff like that. They did definitely seem involved.
Yeah.
The passages were somewhat interesting to them, so I feel like that went really well.
Gotcha. Awesome. What would you have to do to change about what you were doing to move that lesson closer to a 10?
I just wish that I had a little bit more of an individualized assessment for them, because I want to be able to see what they know before we get to that final test. I feel like what ends up happening is, you know, you think a kid knows it and maybe they're getting a little too much help from a friend or whatever, like, so some collaboration is fine. I just wish there was a way that I could make sure it was a little more individual.
Gotcha. Awesome. So, what would you, or what would your students be doing differently if your class was at a 10? Like, how would they be acting? What would they be doing?
Still able to collaborate, but not giving each other the answers.
Right.
And still being able to have fun and be active without it being too much of a distraction.
Gotcha. So you kind of told me what that would look like. You talked about wanting to get a more individualized representation of what your students know and how they're understanding these reading strategies. So how might you measure that change?
So I when we have tests and stuff, we have different things like I respond and whatnot, where the kids can type in their answers and you get a score, but I don't want that to be waiting for the test,
Right.
I want it to be, I'm not grading 1,000 papers and conferencing with individual kids. I would like it to be a little more instant.
Right. So it can be more ongoing, and then like right off the bat what you need to do to change, or what enrichment activities that you might need to give to your students that are struggling.
Yes.
Awesome. So is that the type of goal that you would want? Do you want that to be your type of goal, just to have just a more accurate representation of what your students know before the test that they take?
Prior to a test.
Awesome. What type of teaching strategy do you think you would want to use in order to hit that goal?
Well, I would prefer to have something technology based, just because it's quicker, easier. I'm not grading a bunch of papers along with everything else that I have going on. So it'd be great if I had something that compiled everything for me, like what we have for our testing, but just for different activities.
Right, gotcha. So just kind of going off the technology, what about a technology tool is most important to you?
Well, I do want it to be fun, but I want it to also be convenient.
Gotcha. So what types of tools have you used in the past to assess students that are technology based?
The one that I've used the most, that I've had the most experience with, would be Kahoot. And Kahoot is fun, but oftentimes they end up getting into teams. It ends up being easier depending on the number of devices we have, and also there's not really an individualized thing. It's like, who can answer this the quickest kind of deal. It's a point-based thing. It's more of a game than anything else.
Right. I know. I completely agree with what you're saying, because when I've done Kahoot, I see a lot of students are just wanting to answer the question quickly, and they're not actually thinking about it.
Yes.
So then you really aren't getting an accurate representation of what they know, because they could just be guessing.
Yes. Many a times where, like, if it's a kind of easy one, they'll think it should be this one, and they'll keep spamming that button, and then they get it wrong, and then you really don't know if they got it or not.
Right.
So.
Exactly. So just to kind of recap, you said that you would like your goal to be just an overall better, accurate representation of what your students know, something that's a little more instantaneous, to formatively assess your students so that you kind of know what changes you need to make on your end before the actual final assessment.
Yes.
And you mentioned you would like to use some sort of technology tool in order to help facilitate that. I know you said that you're familiar with Kahoot. Have you ever heard of Quizzes before?
No. The name sounds familiar, but I haven't.
So Quizzes is I always spell it out when I say it, Q-U-I-Z-I-Z-Z, is very much like Kahoot, but I actually like it better because it has very similar features to Kahoot in that you can create your own assessment, or you can even search for already made assessments, which I typically do because it's a lot of people have done a lot of great games and things that they've already created. So I typically search for one that's already pre-made, and then you can assign that to your students, and you can even make it something that they do like on a laptop, like individually. Some teachers, I know Renata in math does it, and she assigns homework, and kids can go on and do it as a homework assignment.
Oh, that's cool.
So it's like Kahoot in the sense that they ask questions and then they're trying to get a high score.
Mhm.
But you can do it as either a Kahoot type of game where students are competing, but you can also make it more individualized so that you have that better understanding. It's more student focused, like one-on-one. What's also really great about it is it has a great data component to it. You can print out reports and it can break down what questions your kids got right, which ones they got wrong. So you can kind of see what areas your students are struggling with. And where you might need to, refocus your attention.
Okay.
So how does that sound to you, like using that type of tool?
That sounds good because I love the game aspect of Kahoot, but one of the things my kids have complained about is that if they want to study or review something, you can't really do that with Kahoot. Kahoot's you have to play a game.
Yeah.
They can't be one person. Someone has to host and someone has to do stuff. So it kind of reminds me of Quizlet and Kahoot kind of together in a sense.
Yeah. Have you used Quizlet before?
I have, but not really in the classroom. It's more of like Kahoot's in the classroom game, and then Quizlet is the at-home review.
Yeah, I think that's a great comparison, comparing the two. I think you're really gonna like quizzes. So just talking about next steps, what I can do is, in the next couple of weeks, come to your classroom and kind of walk you through setting up your quizzes account, and then kind of setting up students and just kind of walking through with you an example of how that might work. And I can even pull it up on the flat panel, and we can kind of run through a practice quizzes assessment, and then I can show you how to pull the reports and all of that stuff. And I think you will hopefully see that it's very beneficial.
Okay.
And I think your students will enjoy it as well. I think anytime that they can use technology, they're kind of it's easy buy-in when they have technology at their disposal. So do you have any questions moving forward about how this might work and how to use it?
No, I think you'll lead me in the right direction.
Yeah. So, and I also think in addition to the using it for the reading strategies, you can also use it for your novel studies as well. So I think that might be beneficial. I think this will hopefully be something that you can use not just in one area, but you can use it in all different types of lessons that you're doing. And hopefully it's something that you'll become comfortable with, so that maybe at the beginning of next year you can start off doing it early, and then it's something your students become familiar with, and it's just an easy thing that your kids know how to do and you know how to do. So I think that's great. I'm excited.
Me too.
Very cool. Thank you so much.
Thank you.